Hello and welcome to part 5 of the Java programming language tutorial. Okay, so let's go and switch a bit topics. We want to learn about Java inheritance, right? What is a subclass and what's a superclass and so on, right? So in Java, it is possible to inherit the attributes from one class to another, right? So it can be either a subclass or a superclass, right? So a subclass is like a child of a class. So it is a class that inherits from another, right? And the superclass is the parent. So it's the class being inherited from, right? So to inherit from a class, we use the extends keyword, right? Okay, so maybe we want to inherit from the dog class, or maybe we want to create a new, let's create a new example to kind of have a fresh concept here, right? So we delete the dog class. I will delete this public method too. Okay, I will delete this content that is inside this main method. Okay, and what I'll do here is I'll create a class outside this Java code class, and this class will be called vehicle, right? So vehicle, I will open brackets, and I will write protected string and maybe the vehicle brand, right? So brand, and we can set it this to brand X, for example, right? Okay, so this is an attribute, right? We can also create a method that will be public void accelerate, right? Because the vehicle is able to accelerate, right? Okay, so we have this method right here, and we will here output something to the screen, like saying system.out.println, and what I'll pass to this method will be accelerating. Alright, so this is our accelerate method. Okay, so this vehicle has a brand which is brand X, and also has an accelerate method, right? Now, if I want to create a car class that will extend or inherit from vehicle, right? So I'm gonna say class small car, for example, right? So you can say small car, and then I will type extends vehicle, right? So this is how we can extend a class, and right now we can change and maybe create a something else, a new attribute, for example a model, right? So we will create it as a private to better picture this. So again, private string, and we say model name, okay, and we'll set it to model X, for example, right? Or model Y, for instance, doesn't really matter, right? Okay, so we have our model name private string, and if we can now also create a main method inside this class, right? So if we create a main method, what it'll do will be the following. So the same main method that we used in Java code, right? So if we want, we can create a new class, or we can also use Java code itself to extend the vehicle class, right? So I'm gonna say here extend vehicle. It will also work right here. So any class can extend another. So vehicle, but it can only extend one, right? So extends vehicle, and it can, again, I can put a model name right here, and now it inherits all the properties of vehicle, like the brand and the accelerate feature, okay, and maybe add something new, which is a model name in these two classes. So this is to illustrate that these both classes can inherit from vehicle, right? So that's basically how we did this, okay? And now here what we can do is the following. Inside this Java code class right here, I can create the following. So I can say Java code, I will call it my car, because it is extending car, okay, and I will put new Java code, right? Okay, and now I can say I have to call the Java code method, right? So I have to call it. And now I can say my car dot accelerate. So do you understand what's going on here? So I'm extending the properties of vehicle, right? That's why I can accelerate from here, right? So this is basically how we can access this class, right? So if we want, sometimes we might want to make this method static if we want to, right? Sometimes that may be handy to make the method static, or maybe we don't want to make the method static, right? So let's see what's going on here. Okay, let's say new car, class car extends vehicle, we have our vehicle class. Okay, now we will run this to see if it works or not. So it says identifier expected. So apparently we need something else right here. Let me see what's going on here. If we call my car and we call accelerate, then we have to call this from the main method, right? Because that's where all this code is executed, right? So we call my car accelerate from inside the main method, right? That's basically how we did this. Okay. So it says cannot make a static reference to a non-static field, right? So maybe we cannot make this static, this accelerate method, right? So now, or we still have this. Oh, we have to, oh, sorry. We have to put this my car thing inside the main method, right? So in this way, we're creating a new class and we can access its method, right? So now if we go and compile the code, okay, as you can see, it says accelerating. So this is calling my car, which is Java code, which is extending vehicle, which is actually printing accelerating, right? So this is basically how inheritance works in Java. So sometimes this is useful to reuse a previous code. So if we want to create a car, but we don't want to rewrite these features, we can reuse the vehicle features and add new ones. For example, in this case, a model name or something like that, right? So this is basically how inheritance works in Java. Okay, so, well, that's it for inheritance. Now we have to, as we know, we can put two classes in one same file, as we have been doing it in this tutorial and in some previous tutorials, right? But what we can also do is create a class inside another class. So in theory, what I can do is I can create a class inside this vehicle class. So for example, I would say private class I am inner class. So this is an inner class which will be created inside the kind of a larger class. Okay, so this is basically how we perform. So we don't have to call a method because it's a class, so remember that. So it says private class and I am inner class, and inside here we can do whatever the case may be, like any other class. So that is kind of the introduction to an inner class. Now this inner class can be private, can be static, can be public, can be protected, or whatever the case may be, right? So this is basically how an inner class works in Java. Okay, so what else do we have to learn about Java? Okay, we can learn enums or something like that. I don't really know how to pronounce it correctly, but enums are kind of useful sometimes, right? I don't use them very often though, but for some applications may be useful. So right now I will delete these two classes we just created, right? We will delete the my car.accelerate call, we will delete these, and we won't extend vehicle because we don't have that class anymore, right? So now we have our public class and our main method, which is all we need for now. So an enum is a class that represents a group of constants, okay? So variables that don't change. Okay, so to create an enum, we will do it in the following way, right? So we will basically do the following. So let's say enum, and I want to call it state or something. And if I open this, I can maybe define these as state 1, comma, state 2, comma, state, okay, let me see, so, comma, state 3, right? So this is an enum, right, in which we have an state, and inside it we have different states, right? So basically, we should put this outside the main method, right? So we should put it right here. Okay, so that's better. And that's how we define an enum, right? So to access an enum, we can do it in the following way. For example, if I say state, which is the type of the enum, we'll say state my state, for example, and we will set this to state that state 1, right? So as you can see, I'm creating a new state, which is a new type I created here with an enum, and it has different possible enumerations of objects inside it. And I'm assigning this my state, sorry, so it's a state, to one of those possible values, right? Which in this case, I'm assigning it to state 1. So sometimes this can be useful to define variables that have different possible states or objects encapsulation, okay? So that's basically how we work with state, okay? With enums, actually. So now we will delete this and we will learn about how can we get input from the user, right? So to get input from the user, we will import a library. So to use some stuff, we sometimes have to import something. To import something, we go kind of to the first line of the file, or just before the public class is defined, and we say import. In this case, we will import the java.util.scanner, right? So we're importing this class, and we will use it accordingly. Okay, so inside the main method right here, we will create a scanner. So it will be a scanner. I will call it my scanner, right? And I will set this to new scanner okay? And I want to scan the keyboard, right? So I'll say system dot in, right? And that's how we basically create a scanner, right? Now, if I want to tell the user to enter something, I'll say, for example, system dot out dot println, and I'll set this to enter something, right? To write something, if you want to do it that way. So I'm gonna say write something, okay? Of course, we have to end the line with a semicolon. And after these, we will go and get what the user kind of entered, right? So to read the user input, we're gonna store that in a string. So we're gonna create a string. I will call it something because we're asking for something, okay? And what we'll do here will be my scanner dot next line. So get the current line, get the next line of the user input, basically, right? And now if we want to output what the user entered, we're gonna say system dot out dot println, and what we will output in this case will be you entered, and we will tell the user what he or she just entered, in this case something, right? So let's now check if this actually works. So we will compile it and run it, and it says write something. I will write hello, how are you? Okay, now press enter, and it says you entered hello, how are you? Okay, so basically we now know how to get input from the user, right? We can use these to check something. For example, I would say if something that equals I don't know, maybe hello, okay, and we will say system dot out dot print ln, and if the user enters hello, we will answer hi, how are you? Okay, so with the equals feature right here, we can check if a string is the same as another string, right? So we'll do just that. So we compile the code, we run the code, and I will write hello, and it says you entered hello, and it says hi, how are you? Of course, this hi, how are you will happen only if I enter hello. If I enter hi, it just will say you entered hi, but it won't say hi, how are you, right? Because we told the computer to just do it when we enter hello, right? So this is how can we can get input from the user. Here we are calling next line, but if we want to get an integer, we'll maybe call next int, or next long, next short, next double. Of course, we have to store it and accordingly right here instead of string, right? So this is how we enter or ask the user or get the user input, right? So pretty easy, right? So now let's learn how we can get the current date in Java, right? So to get the current date, we will do the following. First, we will import java.time.local date, right? I don't know if my computer has the current date, but we will find out, right? Okay, so I will delete all of these we created previously because we don't need it anymore. And what I'll do now is the following. I'll say local date, and I will call it my date. And I'll set this to local date dot now, okay, which is basically telling us the now date, right? So now that we have this, we can do the following. We can say system dot out dot print ln, which means print line, by the way, and what we'll print will be my date. Okay, so now we will compile the program and we will run it, and as you can see, this is the current day, which I think is okay. Yeah, I think it is okay. So that's basically how we can display the current date. Now, what if we want to display the current time? Okay, for that, as you may guess it, we have to import java.time.local time, right? And right here, we will do the same, but we will do it with a local time. So we will say local, local time, and I will call it my time. Okay, and I'll set this to local time dot now again. So pretty much the same as previously, right? And now I will print that by saying system dot out dot print ln, and I'll print my time. Okay. Okay, sorry, it's a typo here. And now I will compile this and I will run it. And as you can see, here we have the time, which is a very precise time, right? Because we have the current hour, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds or nanoseconds or whatever the case may be, right? So we have a very precise time, okay? So, which is great. Okay, so that's how we can print the current time in Java. But if we want to format it in some way, we maybe want to show the day first, then the month, and then the year, or something like that. So how can we do that? Okay, it's actually not that difficult. So if we want to, so there's a function that actually prints both of them, both of these, right? So we will use that function. So, okay, so we don't need these other imports, and what we will import is the following. So we will import java.time.local date time, okay, and we will also import the following. We'll import java.time.format.date time formatter, right? So that will enable us to specify the format we want for our time. So you're gonna do something very similar we did previously. We'll do local date time, and we'll set these to my time, okay, and I'll set this to local date time that now, okay. So that's here. Now I will print some stuff right here. So I will show you how this looks first before we format this. So system.out.println will be like something like my time, right? Okay, and then we will format it and print the new form again. So to format it, we need to do the following. We say date time formatter, okay, and we'll say my formatter, and I'll set these to assign these to date time formatter dot, and here we're gonna say of pattern. So now we will be able to define the pattern. So let me put this in a new line for better readability. Okay, so that of pattern, and we'll say, for example, If we want day, month, and year, we can say lowercase dd and then minus uppercase mm minus lowercase y, for example, right? And then if we want the hour, minutes, and seconds, we can say hh colon and mm, oops, colon and ss for second, right? So that's how we can define the format of our formatter, right? So by the way, you can put some content in one line and some content in another line. So that's very useful in Java. So now we're gonna say create a new string which will be the formatted time. So I will say my formatted time. Okay, and I'll set these to my time that format. Okay, and what I'll pass will be my formatter. Okay, my formatter. Okay, awesome. So now the string has the formatted time. So I want, of course, to print that too. So I'm going to say system.out.println, and I'll pass my formatted time. Okay. So now that I've done this, what I'll do is compile the code. Oops, and I forgot something. So in line 11, we have some errors right here. Oh, we have to put this inside double quotes, so I forgot. So all these format will be put inside double quotes, right? So now let's compile it again. And now it's compiled, and let's run it again. And now we can see the first date without format, or kind of the default format if you want to call that way. And the second one very formatted and looks a lot nicer. So we can format it in very different ways, depending maybe on the country you're in or something like that. So this is kind of useful because maybe you want to save a file and the name of the file you want it to be like the current date. So this is very commonly used by camera applications. So if a camera is created, then it usually saves the photo as the time. So the photo file has as name the time of the photo, the time at that photo was taken, right? So that's very useful for us right now. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you in the next one. Bye.